All right, great. Thank you. So I would like to introduce my co-host and colleague, Anupama Kotiankar, the one who is not able to talk properly today because of the bad throat. Okay. She also has her own private practice from Kandivali, and she's also a facilitator for adolescent education and prevention of child sexual abuse. A little bit about what we are going to be doing today and why this forum. As I mentioned, this is the fourth edition of the Mental Health Awareness Forum. So the need for this kind of a session started, I started feeling the need when I started seeing the clients that they approached me when the symptoms became too bad, right? And then, so I kind of then gradually started wondering that, okay, why are people not taking help in the earlier stages? Why are they really taking help at the very last stage or at the really kind of when they have already suffered for a very long time? So two things came up. One is that sometimes the symptoms that that are experienced, they are very normal symptoms, so to say. Okay, so they may be like normal physiological symptoms like body aches, right? Digestive issues, feeling excessive fatigue, sleep issues, sleep problems, something like these. So these appear very normal, right? Normal, I'm using in a very loose sense right now, right? The other kind of symptoms that people can experience could be categorized under emotional symptoms, which can look like crying a lot or crying on small things, so to say, feeling low. Sometimes there are also feeling of hopelessness, helplessness, right? uh, People sometimes are not able to relax, right? There's a lot of overthinking, constant overthinking that goes on. These kind of symptoms are there. Then there could be cognitive functions related symptoms, which could be lack of focus, problems with decision making ability. So many of you, the audience also, many a times you would have experienced that we are not able to. Some people say that, okay, I'm not able to decide, right? Even the small things I'm not able to decide. While I see some people, they're very confident and they're able to make decisions, things like that. So now these things appear so very much in our day-to-day lives that it is very easy to overlook that they have something related to mental health issues. Okay. So that's why, I thought that, okay, there is a lot of scope for creating this awareness around what are the kind of symptoms that we experience on a day-to-day basis. What are the triggers that we experience in day-to-day situations, right? Which, if overlooked for a very long time, okay, can result into mental health issues. Now, when I'm talking about mental health issues, I am not meaning to say like a complete clinical depression or a complete, what do you say, like a anxiety disorder. There is a lot falling in between. So I'm talking about everything. Okay, so I'm not really talking about that, okay, you seek help only when you are diagnosed with clinical depression or anxiety or anything else for that matter. But this forum I am utilizing, I'm actually taking this opportunity to say that, okay, uh, if these symptoms are persisting for a very long time, okay, and you are not able to do anything about them, so your normal life is getting impacted, then uh, it is a sign that, okay, you need to do something about it, right? So that's one. So lack of awareness. Second thing that I want to talk about, which really uh, prompted this, the need for this session is there are so many misconceptions about, mental health, around mental health. There's so much of stigma because there is so many misconceptions around mental health. You might have heard these very common things like, uh, nothing can happen to me. I mean, you might have experienced it that, no, I mean, I can't be having this, right? Or no, I can't be having this because I'm not weak. I'm a strong person, so I can't be having this. I have always dealt my life with confidence and uh, strength, so I cannot be going through anything related to mental health issue. All right. Or people sometimes tell you, your family or friends, they tell you that, okay, you are imagining things in your head. There's nothing like that. Get busy, do something, have a routine, right? Or sometimes people even go to the extent of thinking that, okay, any kind of mental health issue, meaning that am I crazy? मैं पागल हूँ क्या? Am I going crazy? Or are you crazy? What are you talking about? Okay. Or simply just brushing it under the carpet by saying, be positive, right? Think positive in every situation. But the problem is that I'm not wanting to not think positive. The problem is that I'm not able to look at it positively, right? So that's where these two aspects, awareness, lack of awareness, and misconceptions and stigma, uh, gave rise to this session, right? I would quickly like to share some statistics with you all to again highlight the importance of the mental health. And it's right here in front of me. So according to WHO, World Health Organization, around 5% of world population suffers from some kind of mental health disorder. And in India, every seventh person suffers from some kind of mental health issues, which is a startling number if you look at it. India is also the highest in India. There are highest number of depressed individuals in the world is there in India. Also, 1.5% of death across the world are by suicide. Almost equal number of people attempt but do not succeed. Another statistics is that mental health issues cause 8 million deaths in the world every year. And the two other major killers are cancer and heart disease. Now, we all know how much a big, huge amount of resources are spent by governments, and there's a lot of awareness around cancer and heart disease, right? But there's a comparatively a very minuscule number of resources are spent on mental health. So while the deaths because of mental health issues is reported to be 8 million worldwide, deaths according to or because of cancer is 10 million, and heart disease is 20 million. So it's just third in that order. So, so that's and in poor countries like India, the ratio is even worse. So there's a huge gap and a huge need. So this forum, my dear friends, is a humble attempt on my part to normalize conversations around mental health. And thank you so much once again for joining in. So how we are going to run through the session is that, I and Anupama would be talking to the panelists, okay? And the panelists, I would be asking questions, we'd be asking questions, and they would be, so there's going to be a discussion, right? And that should take about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that. So by 4 o'clock India time, we should be done by that. And after that, the floor would be open to the questions for the audience. In the meanwhile, in case you have some questions, you can put it in the chat box and we will take all those questions after we are done talking with the panelists. Okay, and later on you can ask the questions also, obviously, right? While we are having a conversation with the panelists, everyone is requested to please be on the mute. And let this forum be a sacred, safe space for everyone to be here in case somebody wants to share something which they are going through. Most welcome, and let's all pledge that whatever is there going to be discussed in the session stays in the session. We are not going to be talking about it along with identity after the session. Okay. Though you all are encouraged to be on video, but please feel free to keep your video off if you're not comfortable. There may be a few things which we might be talking about wherein you may feel uncomfortable. Okay, if you do feel so, they may be sensitive in nature. So if you do feel uncomfortable a lot, then what I would say that maybe do a little bit of slow breathing, have some glass of water, just get up and take a short walk, talk to someone, right? If it is triggering you too much, then probably you can leave the session for some time and you can come back to the session when you feel normal. That's absolutely fine. And also, after we will be here, I and Anupama would be here even post for about 15-20 minutes or so, post the session as well. So you can come back, approach us also for support in case required. Now, let me introduce my panelists. And before I introduce, let me really say a big thank you to these 4 beautiful women because they very graciously agreed to come on video and talk about their mental health journey with you all for the benefit of you all. Yeah, so actually that really deserves a round of applause. So thank you so much. My first panelist is Shubhi Sharma. She has been an integral part of this journey with me. So I cannot even think about a mental health awareness forum without her, right? So she's the only constant as far as panelists are concerned. Shubhi is a communications professional and potter now, okay? In her own words, she's currently on a journey of self-discovery through art. She says that therapy has been transformative for me. It has helped me understand and express my emotions rather than suppressing them. How beautiful said that, because a lot of us suppress the emotions rather than express the emotions. So welcome, Shubhi, and thank you once again for joining in.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Kathy D'Souza. Kathy is a director at Curosum, and she heads the company as CEO. This Curosum is an organization involved in promoting practical engineering applications among engineering students. So what I know is that this has got to do with racing cars and all that. So she conducts events wherein students make racing cars, and these are like huge events that she does. In early 2019, Kathy decided to take an appointment with a mental health practitioner after experiencing multiple panic attacks and overwhelming anxiety. Today, she feels that she is better at managing her anxiety in stressful situations. This has been possible through consistent work over the years to determine the root cause of her anxiety and through following learned methodical approaches to addressing her irrational thoughts and managing her emotions. Thank you so much for joining in, Kathy, and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Madhu.
Ramya is a learning and development professional with 20 years of corporate experience. Something very special about Ramya is that she has worked with me when I was in corporate, right? And she was the star then as well, and she's the star today as well. She loves to cook, go on solitary walks, and is an ardent follower of authors like Lucy Hay, Wayne Dyer, and Eckhart Tolle. It was around 21, 22, she realized the importance of mental health and its impact on emotional well-being, productivity, and relationships. Her journey continues with a fairly higher level of consciousness now. So welcome, Ramya. Thank you so much for joining in. And my last but not the least panelist is Nikita Agarwal. Nikita is a school teacher. She's joining us from Assam. Nikita specifically faced severe anxiety problems and depression shortly after her marriage. Staying in this condition for a prolonged period of time without proper help made it worse for her. And she was experiencing very bad physiological symptoms as well. And that's when she embarked on the transformative journey of therapy along with her spouse. So, welcome everyone. And now I would like to start with the questions. That's it. Anupama, am I forgetting anything? Or we can start?
Start, you covered everything. Just, others mute yourselves when, they are not talking. Just be mindful of that. Also, these are personal sharing. So, this is a safe space for everyone. Madhu has already said that, just emphasizing that again, that let's respect each other, respect the speaker, and, we can begin, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Anupama, for that. So,
sorry for my hoarse voice whenever I speak.
No, thank you so much for doing this despite the bad throat. So, Shubhi, my first question goes to you. You have experienced a lot of what do you say, imbalances in life, right? So what was it, when was it that you decided to start on the journey of therapy and self-discovery?
So it all started in around 2015, where I started feeling, I didn't know that what was wrong, but I started feeling symptoms which didn't seem normal. And one of the major ones was, I would get up in the wee hours of the morning and would feel that anxiety inside me. And it was mostly, and through the years, it was mostly concerned, that anxiety was mostly concerned with with the fear of going to work.
Okay.
And I just, for the longest time, I kept trying, what could I be doing wrong, or how can I fix this? I think I felt very disconnected with work and the kind of culture, but I could not understand what was the problem, because I liked the work, but it still made me uncomfortable. I felt I didn't feel confident at a lot of time. I felt out of place a lot of time. And yeah, so that was one major trigger for me. And it was also the same time where one of my best friend passed away. So while it started with where I knew that it is concerned with a job with job. It's within concerns to my work environment, but I didn't take an action because I didn't know what it is. If it's the office, if it's the people, if it's me. But
Yeah,
right.
that's exactly what I was going to ask. That at that point of time, were you aware that these things, the anxiety you're saying, you would wake up in the wee hours of the morning and then you would feel anxiety. At that time, did you feel that what I'm feeling is anxiety? Also, did you know that okay, there is something happening at work which is not working for me?
Yeah, I just felt that I didn't know that it was anxiety. Yeah, earlier I didn't know it was anxiety. I never knew. Apparently, I had anxiety when I was kid as well. So my mother has coined a word for me, saying कि इसको हॉल होती है. And uh, yeah, but it became severe as an adult. And while I didn't do anything about it, it was 2015 when my best friend passed away, and that was a complete downfall.
Yeah.
And that's when a couple of people around me also, subtly started passing hints to me or my close ones that, maybe she should consider therapy, which in a way also, like you said, offended me that,
Yeah.
how do they know how I mean, they're not understanding my loss. I've lost somebody. So but I guess it was, and
Yeah.
I'm lucky I had a ecosystem around me, people who had been through, people who understood. And yeah, from there on my journey started. I started with a doctor first, and I came across Madhu around in 2019. And that's when I started therapy.
Yeah. So
Yes.
you're making a couple of very relevant points, Shubhi. One, that you didn't know at that point of time that what you were experiencing was anxiety. Second, that there were people who cared for you and who were recommending therapy for you, but you did feel offended. Uh, which can happen with any of us, which does happen, right? Yeah, and finally, you took the step. So thank you for bringing in those points. And yeah, so the third point that you mentioned was that you approached a doctor first. So I think later in the discussion, I would like to touch upon this point with others as well. What is the better way or a good way to approach this? Go to a psychiatrist, therapist, like who to go to first, a psychiatrist or a therapist? I think a lot of people have this doubt as well, right? So maybe we'll come back to that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you, Ramya, how did you first realize that you were facing some mental health issue and it's not just stress? What were your signs?
Okay, so it was for quite some time that I felt that I was not at ease with myself. I would say around 10 years, since the last 10 years, I felt that, you know, there is a state of unease that I'm living in. And in the year 2016, because of some stress factors, I had a difficulty in breathing, which was a low intensity one. But I still felt that, okay, I'm having this chest compression. Probably it's something to do with my heart. So we went, it was a Sunday. So I'm talking about the year 2016. So we went to the nearby hospital. They took the ECG,
Yeah.
2D echo, whatever. Of course, there was a little bit of abnormality in the ECG, but when the 2D echo and other tests were
Mm,
done, everything was absolutely normal. So, with a tranquilizer for a night, things seemed absolutely fine. So, this
right.
was in 2016. So, after that, things became quite normal.
Mm,
But during the pandemic,
right.
that was 2021. Of course, during the pandemic, there were a series of events which had already taken place, like some health scares which had happened with my daughter, some family members,
Right.
loss of a loved one. So one fine day, I still remember the date. It was, 5th March, early morning, 3:30 a.m. I get up sweating. My heartbeat is totally out of control. There is severe palpitation, chest tightness, sweating, unable to breathe. So I just get up, I go to the hall because I don't want to disturb anybody who's sleeping in the room. I didn't know what was happening. I just did
Yeah.
not understand what was happening, but I felt I would just explode.
Yeah.
But since I had already gone through a low intensity thing in 2016,
Yeah.
I realized that, okay, this is not heart attack, though the symptoms were very, very close to heart attack. I
Yeah.
thought next minute I'm not going to be there. What is going to happen to my loved ones?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those were the thoughts.
Yeah. That must have been a panic attack for you.
Yeah, and it was very uncontrollable. And this time it persisted. And since
Okay.
it was COVID time and we were not very comfortable going to the hospital and things like that, people at home also said it's nothing serious. It is something like what would have happened. And, we just tried to avoid it. But this time it was so intense that, I cannot explain in words what I was going through. There was so much of fear.
Yeah.
I could actually feel everything dark around me. I couldn't
Yeah.
breathe normally. The breathing in and breathing out, which is a very normal way
Yeah.
of functioning, seemed so tough.
Yeah.
And also, the work related stress had also been a part of this
Yeah.
outcome. So,
Yeah.
any kind of message pings or email pings used to, like increase the,
Yeah. Yeah. Just trigger that
trigger
again.
things. And my heartbeat used to increase just before a client call and things like that. So, all these things made me feel that this was something. And since it persisted also, it was not just that it was a momentary thing, it got over.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
continued to the extent that I feel as if my voice is changing, I'm not able to talk normally.
Okay.
So all these things, of course, I was in touch with you then, and I off and on I used to connect with you. So, and being a person who reads a lot also around all these
Yeah.
aspects, I knew, okay, but still I was so ignorant for so long. Then
Yeah.
that was the time I started, because I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was there was no element of awareness also. It was like I was totally in the dark, feeling
Yeah.
overwhelmed,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
control things which were
Yeah.
not in my control,
Yeah.
be it my
Yeah. So
thoughts.
what you're saying is that there were very severe symptoms for you, but
Very,
still for a very long time you did not realize,
yeah.
even if they were persistent symptoms.
I knew of one word, depression, but I really did not. I
Yeah.
knew fear, but I never knew anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
so that's how
yeah.
it started in 2021.
Because
Yeah.
most of it was physiological. That's why it was confusing.
Physiological and emotional. I used to keep crying. I couldn't talk. The minute I used to start talking, tears used to roll down my eyes. So, physiological and emotional, combination of two.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then when you are in that state, what Ramya is also making the point that even small situations can trigger that anxiety. So even the ping of the email would trigger her anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
call from somebody who's going to give you more work.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it is so unbelievable. The heartbeat suddenly changes.
Yeah.
And you feel
Yes.
like
Yes.
getting back to that rhythm of breathing normally, but it still feels so difficult.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that's a very that even breathing, the normal act of breathing, right? We don't learn to breathe, but like every child, when it's born, it breathes, right? But even that was becoming difficult for you.
Yes.
And I can't even imagine that how uh, difficult it must be for you to experience those symptoms.
Because panic attack and heart attack, they almost feel similar.
Yes, yes. Symptom-wise, they feel quite similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing that.
thank you, ma'am.
Um, Okay, Kathy, so I want to ask you something very specific. Yeah. So there have been times, and a few times, not just once, when you have had thoughts of suicide. I would like you to share with our audience what mental state you were in that led you to thinking such extreme thoughts, and then what's the change that has come in you now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I this journey of mental health has been around 20 years, and I think probably I've had 7 instances during that time where situations have became overwhelming, at least in my head, for me to think that ending my life was just something which was which would end the pain. And it wasn't physical pain, it was just so much that I couldn't process. These weren't like times when it was like minor stresses, like for example, you know, like a minor stress at work or anything like that. This is just like days, weeks, months of piling on minor stresses till they became too big to handle. They when you are in that sort of mind, you can just imagine usually your brain like in a fishbowl and in clear water, but mine would feel like I was in really dark, dense jello, where you sort of have tunnel vision and all you think about is the pain that you're in and how to end it the fastest way possible. And I think I sought help twice. One was when I had the one pretty bad instance when I was in university, and I had called the helpline at that time, but it was a very bad experience that sort of made me not consider therapy later on because I was pretty jilted from that. Or but then I think not I don't think I know. In 2019, I was used to getting panic attacks, but like maybe once a year. I'd get anxious maybe a couple of times, but at one of my events, I was just having panic attack after panic attack, day after day, to a point where, like, before I could actually control where I was experiencing this time I was just bursting into tears in front of random strangers. And I couldn't even explain what I was going through. And I remember I had come back from the work event back home, like home meaning different city. So came back and then I was leaving my workplace to go home, and I just stopped in the middle of a pathway, like on a busy street, and sort of experienced something like a mental paralysis, like a brain fog, where you can't really, you just feel frozen in time. And you don't know what to do. You don't know whether you can go home. You don't know any safe space. And sort of it's that pushed me to actually go find help, because I was like, I cannot live like this anymore. And that's when I came across Dr. Nirmala Rao and then got introduced to Madhu. And that was in 2019. So yeah, I've been on that journey.
Thank you so much, Katie, for, having the courage to talk about this and, bring this up here. What I hear when you share is, those times, the pain of living was more than the pain of dying. That's what I hear. That's what I hear when you say that. I might be having some more questions for you later as we progress about what helped you during those times and stuff like that. We'll touch base upon them later. But thank you so much for, sharing your journey with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate that. And Kathy is doing this so that anybody, who's hearing this, or anybody in your social circle, family, friends, anybody who might be feeling something similar, they can benefit. They can understand what it feels like, and it's a cry for help at the end of the day, right? If somebody is talking about something that they are going through, right? Let me come to Nikita. Nikita, you approached specifically with relationship problem post your marriage. So there were, issues, and there were problems that you were experiencing. Would you like to share with the audience that what were your triggers, right, which were happening post marriage for you, which was resulting into extreme anxiety? We can't hear you.
You're muted, Nikita.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
So, post-marriage, I actually went through a very big cultural shock because there was a lot of cultural difference, the difference in the value system and everything. So, the biggest triggers that which I could figure out was the very restrictive environment and hypocrisy, alienation, ignorance. I felt very, very ignored all the time. Then there was no support from my husband's side. So these were the things. And eventually, when things started getting worse, there were quarrels every second day. So those things overwhelmed me, and which resulted in very severe anxiety issues. So
what were the kind of symptoms that you were experiencing which made you realize that it was anxiety?
So initially it was I started losing interest in the things which I used to love, like reading and writing and gardening, those kind of things which I used to generally love. But after a certain point of time, I lost all my interest. Then my sleep, I lost my sleep. I would sleep hardly for an hour or two, and not more than that. Then panic attacks eventually started, and eating disorder. I was not eating well. Either I would eat a lot at a time, or I wouldn't eat for 2 days straight. So this was my eating habit. My sleep cycle was completely distorted. And I would cry for no reason. Like morning, if I wake up, I would just keep crying in the bed. While having a shower, I would cry. After coming from the shower, if when it's time to get out of the room, I would again feel very anxious. So crying was something that I thought, why? Even I was confused that why am I crying?
Yeah.
And there was no answer for that, because even if everything was fine, I would just cry for no reason. And
so are you saying that there were days when there were like no stress as such at home, but still you would end up crying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would cry for no reason, day in and day out. So things so it started like that. And later on, panic attacks became very, very frequent. And even my husband, he wouldn't understand what was happening to me, but he would share this with his family, and eventually everyone would say that I'm just overthinking, I'm too sensitive, and I don't think positive, and things like that, that
Yeah.
you are not keeping busy, that's why these things are happening.
Yeah.
And so I was given this kind of solutions and this kind of remarks, and which made things
Worse
worse
for
for
you.
me.
Yeah. In fact, that brings me to my next question, that how important, and any of you can answer, how important is the support of family and friends when you're going through mental health struggles? Did you have the experience wherein you did not get the support? And if you have the experience wherein you got the support in terms of understanding, that if you're saying something, sharing something, they understood, or did they just rebutted what you were saying? So anyone can answer.
So
Yeah.
I would like to say
Yes.
something. Basically, I felt that, in my case, there was lack of understanding in them to actually understand what I was going through. Because coming from, a medical, I mean, there is more belief when I talk about my family members, there's more belief in the medication,
Yeah.
treating physical symptoms, but it was it was just labeled as overthinking or getting overwhelmed,
Right.
for no
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
So that was the response I got. It was very cold, and that used to irritate me further.
Yeah. I was actually
And
going to ask you
and
that, okay,
yeah,
what
and
would you
and I
experience? Yeah.
used to feel that, oh my God, nobody is actually understanding what I'm going through,
Yeah.
because there was lack of understanding. I wouldn't
Yeah.
blame anybody. They
Yeah.
themselves did
Absolutely.
not understand. And I realized that anything related to do with thinking or mind or mental things, at least in the 2 3 years back, they did not have any importance. I
Yeah.
mean, as this is my experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it was totally neglected.
Yeah. Yeah. Not because they didn't want to care, but they didn't have the
Have the understanding.
knowledge, the
Yes.
understanding.
Yes.
Right. And what Ramya is saying, that, okay, it made her situation bad for her. She was feeling more irritated. Why are they not understanding?
And it used to be also labeled as self pity, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
self pity, overwhelmed, overthinking. These three words come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something, Madhu, here.
Yeah.
So the kind of response that I got was pretty mixed, because initially, thankfully, I was surrounded by friends who had been through, and everything for me was arranged. My visits to the therapist, to the doctors, my friends would accompany. But from time to time, and because after my own experience, I also started voicing out a lot of opinion, or just in general talking about mental health, uh, because I knew a lot of people suffering in silence. I had seen, experienced couple of, and so far in life experience, I mean, lost a couple of people to it. And yeah, but what I was coming to was that till date, I
Yeah.
find people who somehow want to shut me talking about mental health. Uh, and it impacts me, because as somebody who has anxiety, who has her own issues in her head, I always go in that loop for even if now
Yeah.
it's a minute, I go back and I'm like, okay, am I doing something wrong? I go into that
Yeah.
questioning.
Yeah.
So but I think that's one promise I probably made to I mean I made to myself when all of it started, that I am going to talk about it no matter what. And yeah, and also I see people have very you say they have a very upper say knowledge, because now I've been a communications professional, and I know how companies and how loosely they talk about mental health policies, and
Yeah. That's true.
how loosely they have their guidelines and how they want to help. So nobody really understands and nobody really makes an effort also to understand, because there's an ample amount of information available online. There are a lot of people ready to talk about it. But I think there's a lot of ignorance also in people because, because we're not good listeners. We don't want to listen, and a lot of time you don't want to face the reality. A lot of people just want to run on that autopilot mode that this is how life is going to be. So yeah, even today, no matter how, in numbers, age-wise or how much wise a person, I mean, I respect them for their wiseness, but suddenly I'll realize, okay, I talk about something about mental health or stress, and yeah, I'm hit with the similar words like overthinking, being a victim.
So broadly, what we are saying here is that, okay, definitely a large section of society is still, again, from a place of not awareness, no awareness or lack of understanding, uh, uh, is unable to provide that kind of at least listening or understanding to their loved ones. They care for them, but that's mostly not happening. But wherever it's happening, that really means a lot. Like how should we sing? Some people were there, right? So that really makes a lot of difference to the person who's suffering.
I had a follow-up question
Yes.
for Shubhi. Shubhi, amidst all that you said, there were friends who supported you and who accompanied you when you went for therapy. How was that support for you?
That was I mean, I think I would have not been able to carry on if they were not there, because when I initially started, so we didn't, I was in Delhi at that time, and we didn't have a system, like we didn't know how do you go about it. So my friend found out an NGO in Delhi that offers, free therapy, and I would go there, and it was so severe for me because these sessions would just exhaust me. First of all, I'm not used to sharing stuff about myself. What do I tell? Because I am myself getting conscious that.
So actually, I would ask you to take that up. How was the experience? How was the experience of therapy? So I would really ask you to take that up during that time, right?
Yeah. And I think, yes, to begin with, because I came from the background where, I was always told, beta, mentally strong hona padta hai, mentally strong hona padta hai. So I was like, maybe I am not mentally strong. What is this? Maybe because I'm the youngest child in the house. So there was always, you were very pampered and all of that. So I kept looking for faults inside me. Like, there's a problem with me. But to answer your question, Anupma, yes, because when my sessions would get over, I would be so drained. I used to be so drained talking about what I was feeling, because I was also feeling that and also talking about that the auto ride back home was just terrible for me. I mean, I'm so glad that I had my friend, that I could just rest my head and pass out in the auto and go home. So that really, if that wasn't there, I think I would have quit myself. I would have not been able to continue going, because there was, again, I was, in my, what do I tell in office? Where am I going? Middle of the day, I have to take out 1 hour and go. So all of it, everything was just, okay, it's okay, just forcing me to keep everything to myself when I needed help.
Absolutely. And that makes it all the more difficult, to not be able to share with everyone what you're going through. Right.
But when you have that added support from your friends, I mean, that's really important. And when we try to destigmatize the topics around mental health here, that's the point I wanted to put, that, when you have support, when you understand it and you support each other, it's an easier journey for all of us. So, thank you. Thank you, Shubhi, for sharing that. Madhu, please take over.
Yeah, sure. So, actually, so this is something external. Support from friends, family is external. How was it for you? So once you all realize that, okay, I am struggling with something which I'm not able to do anything about myself. I have tried everything, and now I need to take help. So once you reach that mental stage, how difficult was it or easy was it for you to um, seek mental health, reach to the point where you actually sought mental health help? I would like to start with you, Kathy. Should I repeat my question?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I blocked the mute button.
Ah.
Yeah, so as I said, my first experience was so bad that I did not consider therapy for a long
Yeah.
time. And before that, honestly, I barely shared what I was going through with anyone because I didn't think anyone would understand. And I remember one of our first sessions, Madhu, you said, what is wrong with being vulnerable? And for me, being vulnerable was being weak. And I did not ever want to look weak in front of anyone because throughout my entire life, I was told that if you look weak, then you will not be able to achieve anything. And if you show that you're vulnerable, you will not get opportunities because the world belongs to the mentally strong.
Yeah.
I also remember when I came to the first session that I wasn't sure whether I would be willing to bare my soul to like anyone just openly because I've held it so close to me for so long. And then I remember all that the baggage that I'd unloaded over so many sessions, and I was like, I didn't know I had so much repressed inside. And it felt good. I mean, because at least over the last 4 years, I've been able to slowly open up to people I trust. And something that Ramya mentioned earlier is like people don't understand, and sometimes it comes back and is looked as self-pity, or that you're being overly sensitive or you're overthinking. And unfortunately, my husband, who I love and who loves me a lot, was one of the first persons to tell me that I'm thinking too much and that maybe I should just, not think about situations or overthink the situation so much. It's over the years, it wasn't just me who grew, it was him as well. When we started being open about our conversations and saying, I actually told him, just listen to me. I don't want your advice. I don't want to know I'm overthinking. I know I'm overthinking. I know I'm on overdrive. I wish I could stop. But yeah, so that is that is it. Yeah, it feels nice to be able to build a community of close friends who actually know what I'm going through, so that I don't feel alone in.
That's a very pertinent point you're making, Kathy, that it really helps to build that community for yourself, build that ecosystem for yourself, right? And being vulnerable is not wrong, right? It's
Also,
actually a sign of courage. Yeah.
Something in my personal experience that came my way was, there is, okay, once you've started, you're on that path, and then again, external factors and also internally, you have this question, kab tak chalega? When am I going to resolve this? I think I was posed with that question externally a lot. And I was asked in terms of, in very loosely, like, तेरा कब तक चलेगा? तूने क्या सोचा है? So I think there is just so much resistance towards talking about mental health. Is even if I am here, I'm a living testimony of what a bad mental health can do, and I am very confident about it. But it's just there is so much blockage or stigma that people have that's been created about talking about mental health, is that there are times when you start doubting yourself, you start questioning yourself, that okay, acha maine kar liya, abhi itna kar liya. But it teaches you a way of life, which I guess it's very important in the kind of world that we are living in, where we are thrusted upon with so many things and so many expectations. It's a way of life, and it teaches you way of life.
Yeah,
is very
absolutely.
important for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a way of life. In fact, I read somewhere and that made a lot of sense to me that you know, when we go to the gym or we do our physical workout, nobody asks like, okay, is it done? When are you going to stop it? Right? So, but
In
then
fact, you're
why
frowned
do we
upon
say
if you stop going to the gym.
yeah, exactly. So, right. So this is like a mental gym, we can say, right? So we would have some situation. So, but having said that, what I really want to say is that, it's not that, okay, you will always, I mean, you do work on your fundamentals, some unhealthy patterns that you've formed, and then obviously then you develop the capacity and the capability to deal with the situations in a much better fashion. But having to say that, okay, when is it going to stop or when are you going to be done with is fundamentally incorrect, right? I would like to ask Nikita, how do you think therapy has helped you? What like would
Therapy,
you like to share with our audience, like what do you do in therapy? Like बोलते हैं ना बात करते हैं, बट बात करने से क्या होता है? मैंने बहुत लोगों से सुना है कि अच्छा बात ही तो करते हैं, क्या होता है, राइट? सो माय ओन ब्रदर टेल्स मी दैट अच्छा बात ही तो करते हो तुम. So right, so would you like to share?
Yeah, so before answering this, I would like to share my experience regarding this. So in my case, when my symptoms were so, so much on the surface, and I was actually dealing with them on daily basis. So I was aware of it because being a school teacher, I deal with teenagers, and many times we come across students who face this kind of issues, anxiety issues, and this kind of things are very common. So I have seen that very closely, and I was aware that what's happening to me is not something, something normal. So when I used to have panic attacks and all. So I was aware that this is something very serious. This is related to mental health. This is anxiety. So I was aware of my condition. But
Yeah,
when I started to share about it, uh, especially in my house, that with my husband's family, uh, they shrugged it off and they asked me to keep quiet, to be honest. And they were not at all ready to accept that, घर की बहू को mental issue है, if she's crazy. So
yeah,
this was such a,
huge stigma.
it became a matter of their pride. It became a matter of their pride. The घर की बहू को
Yeah.
mental issue है. So I was discouraged in every possible manner. In fact, my therapy, the therapy that I took, uh, it was also I started taking it as after a lot of rebellion, because I was not supported in that. मुझे ये बोला गया
Yeah.
कि बात ही तो करनी है, हमसे करो ना, हमसे
Mm.
कर लो, घर पे बैठ के हम आपस में बात कर लेते हैं. Why you need to go to
Yeah,
some other person and talk about it?
yeah, yeah. So
So
that's complete lack of awareness on their
therapy,
part. Yeah. But what did you learn? Like
yes.
what has therapy done? How has it helped you?
So now I can say that therapy is not just casual talking. It is not a conversation between two friends, or any conversation with your family member. I can share my experience that from the therapy I have learned that first and very important thing that I have learned is that we need to listen to our body, what we are going through, what's happening to us. Nobody can tell us better than our own body. So
Very
that's
true.
the very important lesson that I have learned. I would like to elaborate on this. Previously, when though I was aware of panic attacks, I was aware of my anxiety, but whenever I used to feel anxious, what I would do is I would just I would start doing something else, so
Yeah.
that I would feel distracted. I used to hope that I would feel distracted and this
Feel
will go
better.
away. Yeah, just to feel better. But now I have learned that whenever I'm feeling this, whenever I'm going through any anxiety, uh, I give myself time, I give myself space, and I deal with it. I try to deal with it as much as possible and to work on it, to work on its cause, to work on its cause and why this is happening, what can be done regarding this. So this kind of things I've learned through therapy. And apart from that, boundaries.
Yeah.
Therapy taught me creating boundaries, upholding boundaries in the needed way. Earlier, I was very, I used to, create boundaries, but my way of
Unhealthily.
implementing them, my way of implementing was very ferocious. It came from a place of resentment
Yeah.
and, anger. But
Yeah.
now I'm trying to, I've learned that if I need to implement them, then I have to, uh, do it from a place of awareness.
Yeah.
And I have to do it for myself, not for others. So
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
my learning
Absolutely.
from therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. So two very important point Nikita is making. One, that it's very important to sit with your emotion, not really scared of your emotion, really sit with your emotion, though it may seem very difficult to begin with, right? But that's the way out. So in therapy, what I can say is that you learn to sit with your emotion. You learn to not be scared of your emotions. And I would really like to say here that the symptoms when they start showing up, whatever it is, panic attacks, crying, any kind of symptoms, they are a result of suppression of these emotions over a period of time. We are never taught since our childhood in our society, it's not taught. We have never learned what is emotion, right? We are always told to suppress our emotion. रोते नहीं हैं, गुस्सा नहीं करते हैं, be a good girl. You know, all those things we have learned from the childhood. That's the way society works, unfortunately, more so in India. So we and the second thing is that these are difficult emotions. तो वैसे भी हम चाहते हैं कि like we don't feel them. So both the things put together, we kind of keep on suppressing, and that results into these kind of symptoms that we are talking about, right? So learning to actually sit with your emotion is a very important skill that we all need to learn. Second, what she's talking about is boundaries. Yes, again, a very important, especially in relationships. Boundaries, to be able to draw boundaries healthily is crucial in relationships, right? I would like to ask Kathy, what do you think, like what therapy has done for you? What has changed for you? So from experiencing, severe symptoms, right? What has therapy, this space has done for you?
So something that Nikita touched upon was sort of being self-aware of your body, but like, or even of basically what you're going through, and especially when an occurrence happens. Something that Madhu taught me was to process it and actually validate the feelings, because oftentimes you will experience something and then you'll say, you let it go, but then actually it's there. You've not validated whether you're hurt, whether you're experiencing pain, whether like you're not validating what you're feeling about what happened in that situation. And then you don't get time to once, if you don't validate that what you're feeling is real, you just keep on suppressing it, or it will happen again. So yeah, I think now even the things of, so sorry,
Yeah.
a couple of things that I learned about irrational beliefs is my irrational beliefs. The core ones are perfectionism, control,
Yeah.
and the one that you
Need
always
for
have to
validation approval.
need for validation approval. And every stressor is literally any of these three.
Yeah.
And when it gets really bad, it's because it's a combination of all of these three in like multiple levels. So, when you're self-aware and then you correlate, you first validate your feelings and then you correlate what your irrational belief is and say it is your belief core with she should have not done that because that is wrong, or like she behaved in certain way, but she's only human. So you sort of like change the question around and put your sort of readdress your irrational beliefs that are like core to you since you
Yeah.
are a child. They are things
Yeah.
that have been embedded in like your beliefs by family, by society, by everyone. And yeah, I don't know, did
Yeah.
I put my
No,
answer to
absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the nail on its head, Kathy. And I really wanted to say that fundamentally in therapy, what we do is uh, identifying the unhealthy patterns, unhealthy beliefs that we all have been holding, um, since always, right? And so then we kind of identify that, we address that in whatever way it is required. So that's obviously one part, but it's a very like a core part of the entire therapy process. Uh, Another part, as we've already said, is sitting, learning to sit with your emotion. Uh, I wanted Shubhi to touch the part where she said that she would feel very exhausted after a therapy session, during the therapy session. Um, uh, so what do you want to say to audience as far as that is concerned? Because that does sound very scary. Who is, let's say, thinking to get into therapy? What do you want to say?
Yeah, I think I felt that before, I mean, when I started it, because honestly I was in a miserable shape. I was miserable. I like the symptoms everybody mentioned, crying all the time, not being able to look at yourself, not liking yourself, loss of appetite. And I for some time I took on to like drinking, and I would just drink and then I would cry. So yeah, so I was miserable at that time. And when I started talking, uh because it was at that time conflicting my own views. So first I would want to address that what therapy changed for me was,
Yeah.
because I think therapy was was a kind of reconstruction of myself. It was the breaking of preconceived notions, which I also didn't know that
Yeah.
I had. I
Yeah.
didn't know I had a belief system. I thought I was a very carefree soul, and I have a funda of live and let live. But everything that was happening in my work life or my reflection, these are just these problems were occurring because there was something fundamentally wrong, which I wasn't addressing, which I didn't know that, maybe there's another way of looking at it. I was looking at situations very rigidly.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
we'll not call it wrong, but there was some way of looking at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, my way was very skewed. My approach was very skewed. And yeah, and so basically through therapy, through understanding my issues that I was having at work or in my relationship with my parents or my sibling, was that there are certain fundamental beliefs, there are certain expectations that I have from people, there are certain expectations that I've put on myself.
Myself. Yeah.
So it was, completely reconstructing that part of my personality. And it was great. I mean, it was also great because it just, in a moment, you will be like, oh my God, this will give me peace. And therapy, I think, is all about self-peace, because
Yeah.
you can't go around changing the world. It's how you adapt to it. And it just gives you a different perspective, and you make peace with it. And you understand, okay, it's my reaction that's bothering me.
Yeah.
It's my own reaction, it's my own expectation that's bothering me. So it gives you a very different look at a situation. But yeah, initially, since I would answer it because I was miserable. I took a lot of time to get help or even share with somebody. Uh, uh, yeah, and but then having a right ecosystem and wanting, I think also I had the ecosystem, but I also had the will. I would always, my biggest motivator at that time to feel better was because I was a smiling person. I was an all the time smiling person, and I thought that I had lost that part of myself. With obviously continuous crying, continuously feeling low, there's things that, you lose all the body weight that you have. So, I had that motivation of going back to what I was, how I was. So yes, that helped me also.
Thank you, Shubhi, for sharing that. I think Madhu's gotten.
I have
Oh,
come
you're
back.
here. Okay,
Yeah.
you're back.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, what happened?
All right.
Yeah, but sure, go ahead, Anupama. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just thanking her and I was searching that I don't see you pinned up. Yeah, go on.
Okay. So can we just take our last inputs from Ramya about what she think therapy does and how does it work before we open the floor to the audience for the questions?
Sure. So, being from an L&D background, I have a little bit of theory to share, but I'll do it very quickly. So, for me, I would divide the therapy phase into three sections. The first one is the awareness. It was awareness phase, wherein it really took me back to my childhood as to how certain things were the way they were, which was making me feel or behave in a certain way. So
Yeah.
before therapy, I did not know what was wrong and I did not know what was happening. So I would say that the therapy helped me, first of all, get aware of what I was going through.
Yeah.
Second phase is processing those feelings, sitting with those feelings, thinking about how that particular behavior of others is making me feel. And so what is bothering me with that feeling, connecting it to the irrational belief that I have grown up with, and things like that. So the second phase is the processing phase. And yes, I would always say that it is a two-way process. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, we get all the tools and techniques, which is very customized for our condition, which we can practice, and gradually we start, letting go and learning to let go and flow with life. So that would be the third and the last phase. So
Very well put, Ramya. Very well
yes,
put. Thank you so much for that.
so
Yeah.
this is how I would describe what therapy has helped me understand about life.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing from mostly, I think all the four panelists is that, okay, it has started somewhere in the childhood for you. Like Kathy said, 20 years. Shubhi also spoke about since childhood. So a lot of it. So I'll not say always, but when, you get into therapy, the therapist looks at you holistically to understand, uh, what has happened, like
And one more
what,
small thing I would like
yeah,
to share is I would like you to imagine, like in the processing phase, it was like, peeling off those emotions layer by layer,
yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was surprising for me. Oh, did I think this way? Did I feel this way? So it was more
Mm.
like an awakening which is happening from within. Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
that was the kind of experience I had,
yeah, yeah,
which over a period of time. So with it is a two-way process. It helps us in understanding things better.
yeah, definitely. It's a two-way process, and therapy needs self-work. I would like to reiterate that therapy needs self-work, a lot of self-work. because we are talking about some deep-rooted patterns and behaviors. So it does. So if anyone is thinking that, okay, magic ho jayega to nahi hota hai, right? There is a lot of work that needs to be put in by the person.
It's a collaborative effort, I always say.
Yes.
It's not just one
Yes.
person, it's a collaborative effort between the client and the therapist.
Absolutely. Right. So shall we now leave the floor open for the questions?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can
Okay,
start.
so let's first take the questions. I'll just adjust my screen in the meanwhile. Anupama, just take the first question. Somebody has raised the hand.
Yeah, I see
I'll just
Sapna has
adjust
raised
my
her hand.
screen.
Sapna, do you want to unmute and ask your
Yeah,
question?
so I'm not going to switch on my camera. Is that okay?
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
completely fine.
Well, I think this is a fantastic forum you guys led, and it clears a lot of inbuilt scare about the therapy that I have. I've been wanting to go for therapy, and there has been a kind of a resistance because, like the way Nikita said, that everybody says, well, it can be dealt with your own strength and with your own this thing. And especially because I'm in my 60s, and at that time, since the time I've grown up, psychiatrists and in fact psychologists were not even there, and I think nobody thought of therapies at that time. And I have been wanting to go for therapy. My question is about, I just feel that, in relationships, it's always the women who are looking for, getting themselves in the right mental condition. And mostly in a spousal relationship, it's not the men. And I think we have a problem there because I think both of them need to be equal in their, response to getting things better. I mean, men
we
also
do.
go through
We
the
do
mental
have a
state.
problem. Thank you so much for asking that question. Right? We do have a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And it is true, like in all the relationship cases, practically every relationship case that comes to me, this is what we see, that it's the woman who is approaching. So even for Nikita, though she is saying that like she's working with her spouse, but she has worked much more than what her spouse has worked, right? So that's, but having said that, what I want to say is that, we have to work with whatever is available currently. So we can't, rather than saying that, no, because it is a collaborative effort, it has to be like together. So unless you come into therapy with me, I will not go into therapy. That kind of an approach is not going to help, right? So
my question is about this, that does it work? Because if there is a relationship problem, does it work if only one of the spouses is getting a therapy and the other one is not, when you know that the problem is between both of you? I mean, it's a collaborative problem, but does it work one way kind of a thing, finding
Right. So the answer to that, Sapna, is that it does work. And the reason for that is, so understand it like that, okay, when there are two people in a relationship, both these people are bringing their own individuality, personality into the relationship. Okay. So for example, like how Kathy mentioned that, okay, there are some patterns, for example, perfectionism or need for approval and validation. We all have our patterns and we enter into the relationship also with those patterns, right? So, if we work on ourselves, a large part of it is taken care of. Okay, so it's not that, it's always better if both the partners are there together, right? But even if one partner is into therapy, it makes a large amount of difference. And in my experience, that once that difference starts to come in, the other partner also starts showing up in therapy. That's what has been based on my experience in relationships.
So basically, it's your attitudinal change towards whatever is the problem. That is when you start dealing with it in a proper manner. Right?
Yeah, attitudinal changes and working on your own patterns as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madhu. I always feel it's the women who are more woke than men.
Yeah.
It
is. In general, you would say it's not only about relationship. Women there are a lot of clients like who are women only.
Yeah. True.
So that's all pervasive.
Thank you. But this is a great forum that you started.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Shubhi, you want to say something?
Yeah, Madhu, I wanted to add to it because this is something that we've had elaborate discussion on, and which is really, and I wanted to share it with Sapna, is it has really in the last 1 year helped me first understanding like how that how women are like their basic build up, how maternal instinct, how caring we are, and how understanding that difference, how men and women are as beings. And also the moment that I changed my tone, the moment of when I switched from feeling of resentment to something, to when I made it a discussion to bring it to table, I saw a change in a change in tone on the other side as well. Because earlier we both were hurt and approaching something, but now even one person can help to create that space where
it can be a discussion and not a battle to win the argument.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Yeah. I'm not able to see
Next
the
is-
screen for some reason.
Also,
So
no problem, Madhu. There is somebody, Motorola Edge, who has a hand raised. Yeah.
Could you ask your question, please?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, hi. So I won't be able to switch on my video. I'm actually driving right now.
No problem. No problem. You can keep your video off and ask.
So I am a 28-year-old male. I had a friend during my college. I'm an engineering student. And I did my graduation from Goa. So this friend of mine lived in our wing. Like we had a wing of 8 to 10 people, and he was from a nearby village of mine.
All right.
Now after 2 years, this guy randomly flipped out and just left the college campus and started staying outside, like for a year and a half. He just comes back to the campus and completes his exams and then goes back.
All right.
And since then, we have not been able to contact him. Like everyone from the campus or have been tried to message him, talk to his parents, but no one has any whereabouts of where he has gone. So we tried to message him again and again on Facebook. He replied recently to one of a friend that I don't want to keep any touch from my past life.
Okay.
Now this friend was a very close friend of mine. So I'm not sure how to process this. Like every time I meet my college friends, I get reminded of him. So like I'm not sure how to face this and how to get over this situation.
Okay, so are you saying like you are feeling some pain because of he kind of completely not being in touch with you all, and he used to be a very good friend?
No, it is that I get anxiety every time I meet my college friends, and if there is anything, because he used to be part of our wing, so
yeah, what is it you are experiencing because of that?
Yeah, so I get anxiety attacks because of that. So because I'm not able to find him, like what's happened with him or what's happening. So every time I meet my college friends,
yeah, like, every time you meet your college friends, you are reminded of him.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to be able to manage your emotions. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
sorry.
Are you there? We can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I think he's driving, so probably we lost
even
him.
the.
And at that time, what's happening with him? why is he not replying? Like we have no.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you. I think, could you stop your car and ask your question when the network is little stable? Can you do that? Because we can't hear you. In the meanwhile, we'll go to the other question.
Yeah, and we'll come back to you, and we are
We'll
going to
come
be
back.
here after the question is over. So we can connect again. Probably when you're in a better network. Yeah. Anybody else has? I don't see any other hands raised, but I'll check if there are any questions in the message. Anybody else has any question, please feel free to unmute and ask. I think there is one question from Sapna, which we have already, she's already spoken about. Are women more woke in understanding mental health issues other than men? And yeah, it was already taken up. Others, anybody has questions?
Any questions, please ask. We are here. Our panelists are here to ask questions, to answer your questions. Okay, in the meanwhile, till the time somebody asks, I want to raise one more question to our panelists. I wanted to come to that, like who to go to first, a psychiatrist or a therapist? So if you're experiencing some mental health struggle, what would you suggest, to go to first, a psychiatrist or therapist? Kathy, would you like to take that up, or Shubhi, would you like to take that up?
I mean, in my case, as I told you, since I didn't know much about therapy, it was just finding a doctor first, right? So it went through going.
Yeah, but now what do you think? What would you suggest other people?
In my opinion, that helped because it was an assessment of how bad it was at that time. Do you need meds, or is just like sessions good enough? And I think just having that for me at that time worked out, because like if you put it now I know where I stand, but like at that time I had no idea. Like I remember the first session I was prescribed meds to just help me sleep, but then after that I was completely taken off it, saying that I don't really need it, and that just talking it out and working it out through our sessions work. So
yeah.
So I started with therapy first, and even now when I look at it, I would say although I gave up therapy in between or was only on medication, but for the last couple of years, it's been a beautiful balance between medication and therapy. And I guess going to the therapist helps. You get an evaluation of your situation, also a reality check, and and then also when I went to because my first therapist did recommend, after a couple of sessions, she did tell me that I need to go to the doctor. It's on her advice that I moved on to a doctor. Because this medication was completely strange to me, and I didn't know how it's gonna, how am I gonna tell anybody that I am on meds, because that was another stigma. So and I think if you strike that balance, if you have a good therapist and your doctor, because we've had even now when there are times when Madhu and I are talking, and there are situations where I take evaluations from both my therapist and doctor that this is how I'm feeling. And there are times when things are resolved through talking and through doing some mind digging. But then there are times when the physical implications of the stress of anxiety are so bad that are too much that I have to seek medication. So I would say go to a therapist first, try to talk it out. And if you've got the right therapist, I'm sure they're gonna, further recommend you whatever is the best path.
Yeah, I agree with Shubhi, in my opinion. So again, there cannot be like a one approach only, but in my opinion, that go to a therapist first. Yes, Shubhi? Am I there? Okay. I think she has frozen. Okay. So I would say go to a therapist first. And as she's saying that the therapist will recommend if you need to go to a psychiatrist. So two reasons, according to me again, that if the symptoms are too, you don't need to always take medication, right? Not everyone needs to take medication. So even if you are put on medication, it doesn't mean that you will always need to continue to take that. So that's some of the myths regarding medication. So coming back to the point that, and if therapist can recommend that if you really need to see a psychiatrist. The other reason why I'm saying this approach works better or would work better is because at least in India, many psychiatrists or most of the psychiatrists, they do not believe in the concept of therapy. So there is a possibility that you have gone to a psychiatrist, but they have not recommended therapy, though you do need therapy. So therapy is needed for all, let me put it like that, wherein medications are not needed for all. Right? Would you say add to it, subtract to it, Anupama?
No, I think that's good. One more thing that I would want to put across, when we talk about therapist is, finding the right match of the client and the therapist sometimes does not happen in
Yeah,
the
that was
first
another
go.
point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that does not happen sometimes. It's like,
Hmm.
आप डॉक्टर के पास जाते हो, कभी-कभी, वो डॉक्टर कोई हमको जमता नहीं है. Same दवाई कोई और डॉक्टर देता है तो it kind of fits. So that right match sometimes does not happen. So if at all, you go for therapy and you don't feel connected to that counselor or therapist, I would say don't give up. Don't give up the hope on therapy or counseling completely.
Or
Go
on
check out.
yourself,
Or on
on
yourself too.
yourself. You have to get better come what may.
Yeah, so go to the other person, try 2, 3, 4. I'm sure you will find the right person for you. So, just have faith and patience is something that I would like to add.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So there's a question that has.
Yeah, there are some
Yes,
questions on
yes,
my chat
Shubhi.
too.
One last thing that I wanted to say, in continuation to what Madhu said, that therapy is for everybody and medication is not for everybody. Also, therapy can be helpful even for a smallest of inconvenience and the biggest of inconvenience, because sometimes it's just a matter of perception where you are viewing things from. So you don't have to suffer to talk to a therapist. You can always just talk to a therapist regarding any issue that you're facing, because these are what I saw in my case was continuous suppression of feelings, continuous suppression of problems. The first statement that my first psychiatrist gave me was, this is a result of, your feelings ka ghada is full. It's that matka is full and it's just overflowing. So really, I really wish that I had, even if it was my parents, because my parents accepted it, I really wish I had that, in me to talk to somebody about this. And I would, if I would have spoken probably earlier, uh, uh, not considered my issues as minor, because
totally
all
agree.
that piling up got major. So yeah, it's
totally agree with it. And in fact, that reminds me to my like many years back, 15 years back, or I don't know, 10, 15 years back, when I now recall that, okay, I suffered and I didn't need to suffer. Now I know that, okay, if I would have considered therapy at that point of time, if I was aware what I was going through and I would have considered therapy at that point of time, I didn't need to suffer the way I suffered. Yeah, so that really as a very valid point. Thank you so much for that.
We have
so
some
there's,
questions. We have some
yeah.
questions, some on my direct message as well.
So
Do
there's
you
one,
go ahead.
there's one question on the open chat. I'll just answer that and then
Yeah.
we can go to your direct message.
Yeah.
How long does it take to be fully recovered if one does regular sessions? Okay, I would like to ask one of my panelists to answer this question rather than me or Anupama through that. Who would like to take this up? Kathy?
Well, I was preparing for today. I couldn't help but just think it's been, what, 4.5 years? And there's something I think all the panelists have said, that it requires to be constant work between you and your therapist. It's not one way. And I felt that many times I felt, oh, I'm getting better. I'm so much better. I'd not show up for sessions after that, or I'd like just stop until I let things pile up. And all of a sudden I am going through the motions and I'm like, Madhu, can we book a session soon? So since my last
and
episode,
not only Madhu, and messaging me, giving me anxiety. I'm feeling suicidal, 9 on 10 suicidal.
yes, that was the last episode, which was last year in January. And ever since, we've been very consistent with our sessions.
Yeah.
And I've always documented this in my journals, and it always comes down to now more so the realization that even if if my month was good, I barely had like too many problems or whatever, I generally had a good month, it was still so important to go for a session, because as Shruti mentioned, even the tiniest of things, just to let it out, process it, analyze it, just gets it out of the way. And I felt that these were very cathartic, because honestly, I don't talk to anyone else about like what I'm going through. So having that, even that 1 month session, even when things are going well, it's just on the way of, like, you're just progressing and just you learn new things every single time. So to answer, I think it was Radha's question, it's really dependent first on what your situation is. But I feel that, and as Subhi mentioned, like, you don't have to necessarily go to therapy when you're having a big episode. When having the smallest things, when you associate the word therapy to stigma is when you start thinking like, how long should I keep doing this till I recover? And I think we should just disassociate that more so, and look at it as the gym solution, or so that an analogy, like, you don't go to the gym and then when you stop, people say, why don't you go? You feel better, sort of thing. You get blood rushing to your brain and make better decisions, apparently. So it's the same thing with therapy as well.
Absolutely. And just to kind of round up on that so every person is different. Every person's intensity of the problems is different, rather. So, but having said that, every person's capacity to work on themselves is different. So, we cannot really say that how much time will it take. But having said that, what is important to understand that because therapy involves working on yourself and working on some deep-rooted patterns, it's not a very quick fix solution, right? You should look at minimum a few months. Okay, that's a very like a ballpark figure I'm just giving. Minimum few months to, it could take a couple of years also. In my opinion, if you're able to work consistently, diligently, then 6 months is a decent time frame to have, had good changes in your life, like good changes so that you are able to feel better. That's again, based on my experience. So it's 6 months should not be taken as a figure, but it's like minimum, it can be looked at like that. It could be 2 months also. If let's say somebody is having I've had people like who were just probably done in 2-3 sessions also. So it really depends. Yeah. So yes, Anupama. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had some question.
Yeah, but the person who's asked the question is no longer here. The question was for Nikita, so I think I'll park it in case that person decides to come back. But Hussein had a question. Hussein, are you here? Hussein had messaged me that, did you ask my question? Yeah, Hussein is here. Hussein, would you like to ask your question? Yeah, please unmute and ask. Or do you want me to ask it for you? I don't see your question in my direct message. Okay, he said yes. Okay, there is a question from
You
him.
can
Just
ask, I
hold on.
think. Yeah.
Oh, you just asked, he said. So I guess his question is answered. Okay, all right, Hussein.
Okay.
There was one question for Nikita, but the person who's asked that question is not there.
But if you think that question is something that anyone can have, then we can still take that.
So the question was for Nikita that how did she manage her emotions with her in-laws? As this person is very scared to face her in-laws, and it just gets crazy even after listening to their voice over phone calls. So this person is, feeling very scared listening to their mother-in-law, to their in-laws' voice, and wants to know from you, how did you manage your emotions dealing with your in-laws?
So firstly, it took me a lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of therapy to be able to deal with it. I'm taking right now, I'm having my therapy along with my spouse, but it also took me a lot to, bring him into the therapy. I almost, Madhuvanti will agree to it. It took me a lot of time, lot of effort to bring him into the therapy. Even today, I am not being supported in this, but still, I started with, regarding my in-laws, I think I started with creating boundaries first, and I started working on myself rather than working on their behavior and their thing. I started focusing on my reactions to it and my boundaries to it towards them. So yeah, this is how I started dealing with them.
Yes. And the question specifically, and I've heard this from other people also, that even the sound of the voice of mother-in-law triggers, right? So there can be some behavioral things that can be done, trying to, though that person who's asked the question is not there, but I'm still trying to answer that. Some of the behavioral things that can be there is that, like, not being in touch with, removing yourself um, from the situation, okay, and drawing boundaries, as Nikita is saying. But thirdly and majorly, working on your emotions, what you experience. So when you're saying you're feeling triggered, what you experience when you hear the sound, what comes up for you. So trying to understand that, and what's the reason that's coming up for you? What is it getting triggered, right? So that emotion is getting triggered, but what is triggering that emotion when you hear the voice of mother-in-law? So working on that helps, right? Right.
I would like to add one more thing in this. I would like to share rather than adding, I would like to share one more experience of mine. As I have already mentioned, that I was very vocal about my condition. So I used to share a lot with my parents and some close friends as well as my colleagues. And when I started sharing my problems, and I realized that this is the kind of problems that I was facing those were much more common than I could ever think. Almost every second woman that I shared my problems with were facing the same problems, and somewhere I felt that they were also, suppressing their problems, suppressing their anxieties and complaints and resentments. So this also brings the previous topic that women are more, someone brought up the topic that women are more, they want more changes, they are more into therapy than men. So I think this is also one of the reasons why women are more into therapy than men, because our society is designed in such a way that women have learned to suppress more and more. So that is why now they want to break free and come out. So that is why they seek more therapy, they seek more changes, and they are more flexible in terms of changing their perceptions.
Well, I would like to add to that is that it's not only women actually who suppress. Men also do suppress. In fact, they don't even acknowledge to themselves that what they are going through. In fact, that adds to the problem, like in a holistic way. So as a general trend, we see that men don't seek therapy. Like very few men, maybe 2 men for 10 women seek therapy. The ratio may be that skewed. So I just thought that I'll bring that point up, and it's time that men also do start feeling their emotions, acknowledging their emotions. Yeah, so I think this brings us to an end of this wonderful session that we have had. I would like to, with a very gracious, grateful heart, I would like to thank my panelists once more to come and share whatever they really, they did their best to help you in whatever way they could, right? And that was really what they shared was, what do you say, invaluable, right? So I would like to really extend my heartfelt thanks once more to them. Anything else, Anupama? Anupama, would you like to share, as a therapist, what is it that one thing that probably you would like to share with our audience?
So I'm going to steal Shubhi's line. I'm not sure, Shubhi probably is not sure.
Shubhi, yeah.
But her line of therapy is not about changing the world, and it's about adapting to it. I loved it, and that kind of sums up to what therapy means. The other thing I would like to tell the audience is that, your mental health is important. And when you seek help, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And by talking about it in this forum, we are trying to destigmatize this, feeling about, not wanting to talk about mental health issues, in the hope that we are more open and we are more open to seek help. So, that's it from me. Madhu, would you want to add something, some message to our viewers to take away?
Yeah, so I think one of the very important things or very fundamental things which I want to say is that please don't suffer. Take help. There is absolutely no justification why you would suffer, why you should suffer. Okay. And what I can say with a lot of confidence that with therapy or with help by working on yourself, you would move from feeling victimized to feeling empowered, right? So you really feel a lot of liberation when you know, like, okay, whatever is the situation, I can deal with it. And, so that gives a lot of empowerment to your own self. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Is there someone?
Yes, there is a chat.
Uh-huh.
It's about
Bushra is saying, as Nikita said, that set boundaries, but still after setting boundaries, I face so much issues. Like since 2 years, I didn't talk to them. Then too, they are talking bad about me using abusive language and always. So Bushra, Nikita spoke about drawing boundaries in a healthy way. Right. So you can draw boundaries, but the boundaries can be drawn in an unhealthy way and boundaries can be drawn in a healthy way. So probably it's a question of learning to draw boundaries in a healthy way. And that can be done when you work on yourself first, and then you can draw boundaries in a healthy way. Okay, and Anupama has already given our email IDs. If any of you has any questions or anybody you know has any questions, even after the session is over, we will be more than happy to. So just put in the subject line, put Mental Health Awareness Forum 13th July. So at least put that so that we know, because there are so many mails that come. So at least that should not get unnoticed or ignored. Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and really helping us spread awareness around this issue, normalize conversations. We will have more of these sessions, right? Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy,
Thank you.
Ramya, Nikita.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Nikita, you can also. So we end the meeting here.
Just wait for a minute. Does anybody have anything to talk or share?
There is something. Yeah, so in case there is, we are still here for 5 minutes.
We'll be here for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If not, we'll end the meeting. There is nothing on the chat.
Yeah. You can stop the recording as well.
Yeah, I think I'll stop now.
Yeah.